LSU's in a really good situation at quarterback, and it does not jive with the perception that many people have of where the LSU program is. So there are going to be some difficult decisions to make up in your mind if you're in a pool or if you're trying to bet futures and you're asking yourself, what should I expect from LSU this year? Do I remember 2019? Do I remember 2020? How in the world do I blend those? It's like oil and water. I don't know what to make of this program. They got 4 guys who could probably start at many programs. They got 2 guys, I'm talking quarterback, who could start at a vast majority of the programs in America. Now, the 2 that I'm talking about are Max Johnson, who you saw beat Florida, for example, late in the year. And then you saw Miles Brennan earlier in the season before he got hurt. It was an abdomen injury. We never really had public clarification on that. So just as someone who has had an abdomen injury, hey, I couldn't have played quarterback for LSU during my injury either. So I feel Miles Brennan. So guys like Miles Brennan and I, is what I'm trying to say, once we're healthy, maybe we'll contribute. I don't care who starts for him. Like, I got a feeling it's a lot more contentious and a lot more competitive than maybe some of, for example, the preview magazines already rolling off the shelves with Miles Brennan penciled in or inked in, I guess is how they have to do it in the magazine world. But look, regardless of who starts, they're in a really good situation here. The quarterback situation at LSU right now and how good it is why I have a hard time buying into this notion that LSU is some snowball of disaster and it's going to continue to roll downhill. And if you remember how bad they were last year, get ready. That's just a preview of what's to come this year. That's hard to envision for me. I'm not telling you they're going to win the West or win a national title. I'm telling you I got a hard time believing they're not going to be much improved this year. I'm going to ask you, how do they not improve? First off, because of the obvious, can't get much worse than it was last year. How do they not greatly improve this year? Because even if it's Max Johnson, if it's Max Johnson, if it's Miles Brennan, like one of those guys is going to be a for sure bona fide SEC caliber quarterback, national caliber quarterback this year. And they have 2 legit options. That's what's important. They don't have, it's not like at Iowa. It's not Spencer Petras or bust. It's Max Johnson. If it ain't him, it's Miles Brennan. You can reverse that order. TJ Finley has started for him. Garrett Nussmeier is a true freshman who would start at a lot of places. They're afforded the luxury of not having to start him this year. Doesn't mean they couldn't. They got a new defensive coordinator. They've got talent on both sides, the likes of which 98% of the sport would envy. How in the world do they not improve greatly this year? Ed Orgeron's name is going to be forever linked to one of these guys. He's either going to be linked to Max Johnson, he's going to be linked to Miles Brennan. Now, hopefully he gets a chance down the road to survive and link his name to the likes of Garrett Nussmeier. If that happens, Ed Orgeron has staved off any threat of losing his job, and LSU football is back on track. But this is the year. See, because a lot of people cannot see 2022 for Ed Orgeron right now. I think including a lot of people in the administrative side of things at LSU. They're looking right now at 2021, and then the blinders are on. There's a fog past 2021. But his name's going to be linked to one of these guys. You see, because if it's Max Johnson, then Ed Orgeron's going into battle with Max Johnson this year. And everyone at LSU, myself, everyone else is looking around, and they're saying, all right, you won a title in 2019. 2020 was a disaster. If you're a lot more 19 than 20, we'll find out in 21. And we'll find it out because you will have chosen amongst these 3 or 4 legitimate options at quarterback. You've chosen the right one. We've got all the talent we need at offense. We got all the talent we need at defense. This roster looks good. You made the coaching changes you say you needed to make. So now let's go into battle and let's win some football games. And whoever that quarterback is, that's who Ed Orgeron's going to be linked to. So who's it going to be? My guess right now is they don't know. My guess right now is maybe even if Ed Orgeron has a lean, not only is he not ready to say it, he doesn't know himself. And that's a good thing, by the way. That's a very good thing. LSU fans, though, my point is it's a win-win for them because they look at this right now, and this is the most enviable position to be in at the most enviable position in sports. If you got in, especially in football, if you've got quarterback figured out, you've got this sport figured out, unless you have just a complete landfill under the topsoil of your program. Now, I know LSU's had some problems down there, but I'm just talking about football for a second. Unless you have complete garbage under the surface, you got quarterback figured out, you got a shot. It's hard to be great to elite at quarterback in college football and lose 3 or 4 games. That's hard to do this year. You got to really screw things up. So I'm looking at LSU this year. Yeah, they got a tough schedule. They do every year. But if one of these guys is right, they'll fix things this year. But let's just say they do have quarterback figured out, but for whatever reason, the rest of the program goes belly up. Well, then you get another staff in there, okay? But my point is, I'm looking at Garrett Nussmeier. That's who I'm looking at, down the road. Forget this year for a second. Look down the road. LSU's in such a good quarterback position because whether it's Ed Orgeron or someone else in 2023 leading the program, you've got such a good situation at quarterback that you have cultivated an environment much like North Carolina has with Sam Howell now and Drake May tomorrow. You got either Johnson now and Brennan now and Nussmeier tomorrow, and who's to say you don't bring in someone more talented than him in this class or the next class? You've got an opportunity to bring really good to elite quarterback play in and then not have to start the guy his first year. That's where you want to be. That's where Bama is with guys like Bryce Young. They did it with Tua. That's where LSU is now. Not to compare those names, apples to apples, but the situations are very comparable. That's why it is hard for me to look at the LSU football program and say, oh, that's a disaster. It's not going to fix itself. Well, I'm telling you right now, if they're struggling to stay above 500 this year, it would surprise me if for no other reason, then that quarterback room will not let it float around 500.